Could a surprise from the Supreme Court upend the most blasé presidential race of all time? All that and more now on Graph's Grievances. In just 2 weeks, the United States Supreme Court will hear oral arguments in a case seeking to disqualify Donald Trump from seeking the presidency. The High Court agreeing to take the case after the Colorado Supreme Court ruled Trump could not appear on the state's primary ballot because he engaged in an insurrection. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution disqualifies certain office holders who engaged in insurrection from holding certain offices in the future. The question for the court is whether Trump's efforts to overturn his 2020 election loss qualifies as engaging in an insurrection, and whether that therefore bars Trump from seeking the presidency again. And while I am certainly not a lawyer, I have heard persuasive arguments on both sides of this monumental case. But here's the thing. I sadly do not believe that the strength of each side's argument will be determinative of how the court rules and whether Trump is allowed to remain on the ballot. And that is because, according to 538, following the 2022 term, the Supreme Court was more partisan than any other time in the modern era, with a record number of rulings decided along party lines, with all Republican appointees voting one way and all Democratic appointees voting the other way. Currently, the 9-person High Court is composed of 6 justices appointed by Republican presidents, including 3 by Trump, and just 3 justices appointed by Democratic presidents, including 1 by President Joe Biden. So, conventional wisdom would suggest that the Republican-stacked Supreme Court will not find Trump ineligible to be president, and he will be on the ballot in November. But what if there was something that all the justices on the court valued more than ideology? And no, I'm not talking about the U.S. Constitution. I'm talking about an independent judiciary. Trump has made clear he will be a dictator on day one if reelected to a second term.
He says, "You're not going to be a dictator, are you?" I said, no, other than day one.
And that second term, Trump says, will never end.
And that we have a good chance of staying for 4 years. We'll have a lot to say about it, 4 years and beyond.
So what exactly is a dictator? And what would a Trump dictatorship mean for America and the court? Dictators establish total power over a country by using any means necessary, including deadly force, to take over all facets of the government. For America, this would mean eliminating the legislative and judicial branches to ensure there are no checks on the dictator's power. So when Trump says he wants to be a dictator, he is literally telling you he will eliminate the United States Congress and the Supreme Court. Which you would think would be alarming to all 9 justices on the Supreme Court. They have undoubtedly been watching very closely what has been happening in Israel with respect to the country's independent judiciary. Right before the October 7th attacks, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu moved aggressively to restrict the power of Israel's Supreme Court after making a remarkable comeback as head of state while on trial for corruption. And just 3 weeks ago, Israel's Supreme Court struck down Netanyahu's attempt to limit their power, potentially igniting a constitutional crisis. Will Netanyahu respect the court's rulings? That remains to be seen. But there are clearly warning signs here for America. And our Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, can ensure America avoids all of this by ruling that Trump is ineligible to be president because he engaged in an insurrection in violation of the U.S. Constitution. Such a decision would not only protect their jobs and ensure America's judiciary remains independent and free, but it would prevent an aspiring dictator from taking control of the United States and destroying our democracy forever. Thank you for watching Graf's Grievances. Let me know what you think. Please like, subscribe, share. It really helps me grow this channel. And join me tomorrow for more.